Hi, this is Granny Maggie from Granny Magic. And through a lot of the interactions that I have with many of you, I realize how important it is for us to feel secure and able to trust our spiritual connections, our intuitive wisdom. We know ourselves better than almost anybody else could. Our spirit guides, our ancestors are all around us wanting to communicate with us. And so it's very important to open our hearts and to foster, to nurture that connection and to ask for the signs, for the omens, for the guidance that we would like to have. So I'm beginning with a very simple spell that's nothing written. It's from the heart. It's an example of how I work with my guides or spirits, how I do magic. And I'm going to do a short spell, after which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we do sometimes seek out a reading from somebody or do a spiritual consultation with somebody. How often should we do that? How can those help us? What are the pitfalls? What should we maybe watch out for? How do we get the greatest value from learning from other people? So first, I'm going to begin with a very simple working to foster direct communication between myself and the divine, guardian spirits, ancestors, my spirit guides, whatever you like to call them. So I have chosen for this working the High Priestess Tarot card. I work with tarot a lot. It has a lot of meaning for me. It's like a language. And this is very much about that vertical communication coming down. I'm an Aries. I don't have a lot of problem with the horizontal in the world. I have a lot of spiritual passion, and I'm very, almost a little too impulsive in acting out what I think needs to be done, what I feel called to do. So the High Priestess is an excellent choice for me because I need to work on trusting and nurturing that vertical communication between the divine and myself and knowing to trust it. And I think that's an issue for many people that I work with. So I'm going to pull out the High Priestess card. I've set up a purple candle. Purple is a color that fosters communication with the other side, our psychic energies. I have put 3 tumbled amethyst around my candle. And then I have the big crystal geode chunk of amethyst. And then I found a little flat piece, almost like a palm stone piece of amethyst that I'm going to use. I'm going to hold it next to the High Priestess card and feel that energy. This will go a little bit more quickly than it would if I were doing it on my own. The meditative aspects are going to be cut out. Normally, I like to feel the energy of each crystal as I place it. I like to feel the energy of my candle before I set it up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to light the candle. And one way that I raise energy is to look at that candle flame. I am an Aries. I'm a fire sign, and fire has always been a way for me to see signs like fire scrying. And it also energizes me. So I would normally spend a couple of minutes really meditating on that flame and feeling that power rise up within me. Some people like movement to raise energy. Sometimes I ring a bell. Other people clap their hands. There's a lot of different ways to raise energy, but the fire alone does it for me. So now that I've energized myself. I'm holding these. And I'm going to speak to my guides and ancestors. Thank you so much to my spirit guides, the spirits of this house and this place, and to my holy ancestors for always coming through for me, for supporting me, for leading me on this spiritual journey through life and helping me to go ever deeper. I ask for those bonds to continue and to grow ever stronger. Please help me be more sensitive to your leadings. Help me to become ever more aware of the signs that you send me. And please make those signs obvious and clear, because sometimes I'm pretty cluttered in my mind and my heart. So I'm asking now for you to continue and strengthen my psychic bond, my trust and my confidence in my intuitive wisdom and in where you lead me. Thank you so much. So mote it be. And then I might carry this amethyst with me, or it could be a piece of amethyst jewelry would be very nice, or a bracelet, a pendant. And I'm setting my High Priestess card down at the base of my working. And then I'd like to let my candles burn out if it's safe to do so. I have to be careful because I do have cats and they're very attracted to magic workings. So once you've gone ahead and you've done a spell like that, it's really time to think about where most of your spiritual input comes from. Most of us know ourselves better than almost anybody else. There are people, though, that can touch our spirit guides, call in our ancestors, and reveal to us, perhaps, things we missed, things we pushed aside and maybe didn't want to see or look at. One of the ways to get information like that is to go to a tarot card reader. And as you know, I offer tarot card readings. And for me, it's a language. I see an energy picture. I do call in the client's spirit guides, and I also call in the spirit's ancestors if they would like to come and work with my spirit people, and usually they do. Now, things can interfere with someone like me getting a good reading. Sometimes you yourself are you have a protective barrier that's very hard to penetrate the energy. Other times you don't have a strong working link with your ancestors or with your spirit guides. And so they may not come through, or they may not come through as strongly unless there's a really important message they need to get to you. They don't feel invited in by you. And that's going to override me inviting them into your reading. So it's always helpful if you're going to have a reading, a tarot card reading from someone, to let them access as much of your energy as you feel safe in doing, and to give your ancestors or guides permission to work with that person. There's a lot of different kinds of readings. There's psychic readings that you can get, where palm readings. There's just many, many ways that people can help you look at your energy. There are people who are addicted to getting these kinds of readings, and they spend a lot of time going from reader to reader to reader, sometimes because they're looking for a certain answer. Other times it's because they really enjoy hearing about themselves, because they haven't yet reached down deep to have that inner knowledge themselves, and they're hungry for it. There's a lot of different factors that can play into it. But I would like to discourage you from very, very quickly going from reading to reading to reading from different sources. And that's because each reader has their special skills and abilities, and they're going to interpret things in different ways. And you need to spend some time with what they tell you. You need to digest it and really look at it, especially the parts you may want to dismiss too easily. It's easy to be glib when you see the cards, and you're wanting instead not to compare these readings and glibly say, I always get that card. Look at what that says to you. What does that energy mean to you? How does it work in your day-to-day life? How does it express itself in who you are on your journey? Sometimes we get very interior on these things. So it's important to have outside validation oftentimes. How do you do that? Well, after you have a reading with someone, I, for example, don't record my sessions. I send pictures of the cards. Jot down what that person is telling you. What did they base it on? How did it feel to you? Meditate on it. Are there parts that are uncomfortable? Are there confirmations? And if you get a reading, especially where you have a lot of questions, because it's opening up something very new to you, or it doesn't feel right, it doesn't sit right, and not all readers are legit, and not all readings are actually empowered by spirit for various reasons. At that point, what can you do? Well, aside from simply journaling it, it's nice to have a way for you to really look at these things. And one of the ways to do that is with a pendulum. You know, I encourage people to develop a practice with a pendulum. It builds that psychic muscle. And especially if you journal what you come up with your pendulum, you can go ever deeper and use it for different kinds of, there's a lot of different techniques you can use a pendulum for: spirit communication, finding lost objects, choosing, making selections. I mean, it's very, very nuanced in some ways. And so the longer you work with it, the more those nuances become clear to you, and you can use them in new and interesting ways. But one of the things to do might be to ask the pendulum about things that came up in the reading. And see what your pendulum says. Does your pendulum support what the reader said to you? And then journal that down too. Keep those notes together. Another way, I don't read oracle cards. For some reason, oracle cards and I are just not close. And partly because each oracle deck is different. And I like to know when I spread cards and pull them, I already intuitively like to know the meaning of each and every card. And a lot of times with oracle decks, people work with them in ways where they're having to look up the cards they pull in their little booklet. And so that's just not the style that I work with when I do readings. So if you would like to use oracle cards, I think for this, they're optimal. If you find an oracle card deck that speaks to you, either because of your lineage, for example, the Celtic themed cards, or if you're very much at home with nature and nature speaks to you, there are a lot of cards that work with natural elements. There's just a lot of perspectives to them. And if you're using oracle cards to look at what someone's reading, psychic reading, tarot reading, other kind of reading told you, it's very simple to ask for confirmation or to deepen a point that maybe was obscure to you in the reading. And if you're just going to be pulling 2 or 3 oracle cards, it's going to be fairly simple to look those meanings up and to see how those energies move together. and whether they support the reading that you received or not. And if you're a person who even works with dreams, putting out your amethyst, your herbs, your candle, whatever it is that works for you, and ask for confirmation in your dream regarding the reading. Ask for further information. If you work with certain ancestors or spirits, you might invite them to work with you through your dream that night. And then that's something else that you can journal. And that way you get a better picture of what that reading meant, whether or not that reading actually correctly identified your spiritual journey, your spiritual path, blockages, whatever it is that you went to the reading for. And so every reading has a different kind of strength to it. This also keeps you from wanting reading after reading after reading sometimes, especially about the same issues. And that happens a lot with romance readings for me. People keep wanting to, they want a different ending maybe, or they'd like to see a different path for that energy. This will help you control that urge because you're still working with that information in the reading, but you're taking it deeper. And that's what's really important in looking at that. Sometimes in readings, we don't like some of the way the energy is flowing, and we want to transmute that energy. We want to shift that energy pattern because a lot of times we do become aware of patterns during readings. And sometimes that's where maybe working with your spirit guides, working with your ancestors can help you see how to shift that energy, and you can ask them for help. That's another reason I offer spiritual consultations. So if you've had the reading and you're working deeper in it, and you see an energy pattern that you want to shift, energy that you want to transmute, then as a witch, I'm able to help you by finding more formal spell work or helping you identify crystal energies and ways to work with those that can bring you deeper into that reading and help you work actively to shift the energy in that reading. So these things are never cut and dried. They're never simple. But the main component, believing in yourself, making strong enough connections with the spirit energy, the universal wisdom, your intuition, whatever energy you most strongly identify and work with, that's the most significant thing for you to pursue. You have to be able to trust yourself. You have to be able to validate what your intuition is telling you to some extent so that you learn ever increasingly to trust it, to be open to it, and to act on it. So that's my advice today concerning finding readings, learning how to work with energy where there's a balance between what you know about yourself, trusting what your spirit guides and ancestors might be telling you, and still being able to work with what some type of reader can bring to you. And I wish you, as ever, many blessings on this journey, this beautiful spiritual journey that I'm privileged to share with so many of you. This is Granny Maggie from Granny Magic.